like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another issue of Combat Patrol. Today we're on issue number 18, which sees us get the second part of our second units of Termagants and the Ripper Swarm, and this magazine will cover painting your Termagants, successor chapters, and fielding the Termagant Horde. Once we turn over, it's straight on to painting the Termagants and the Ripper Swarm, and this covers 4 pages of the magazine, and it shows us what our Termagant swarm and unit will look like thus far before we have some reading material in the form of Hive Worlds. This is Read Section A, Imperium Part 13. This carries on over the page about gang warfare and cities of 1,000,000 spires before we go on to Death Worlds, which is Read Section A, Imperium Part 14. They who are born in hell fear nothing, is what it says on this page. This bit of reading material carries on over to the next page before we go on to successor chapters, which is Read Section B, Space Marines Part 12. The first founding chapters are the progenitors of countless successor chapters, new forces of Space Marines created from the gene seed of their predecessors and rooted in the traditions of their forebears. Over the page, it gives us 9 examples of successor chapters before we go into Shadow in the Warp. Read Section C, Tyrannids Part 14. This one, Tyrannid synapse organisms psychically project the shadow in the warp is the description for the artwork on the page. This carries on over the page before we go into datasheet abilities. This talks about Death Frenzy, Disruption, Bombardment, and over the page, Skulking Horrors and Feeding Frenzy. And it gives you examples of each one before we go on to Scenario 14, Monster Hunt. In this scenario, you'll finally get to use the full strength of the Tyrannid Swarm in battle using their special rules and an extra unit of Termagants. Will the Space Marines be able to weather such a force? And it tells you you're going to be using all of the Termagants. You will be using all of the Termagants, but what I meant to say was you'll be using all of the Tyrannid units thus far, and they'll be facing off against the Captain in Terminator armor, the Librarian in Terminator armor, and the 5 Infernus Marines. The Space Marine Captain must be deployed on the board as shown below. Like always then, it's broken down. It shows you step by step what to do in the Tyrannid's turn. It gives you an example I should say, of moving and shooting, and then an example of charging and fighting. We go over the page, it breaks down the Space Marines' turns, and then I should say it gives you an example of moving and shooting and charging and fighting for the Space Marines as well. Like always, it gives us a little bit of storyline material if it's a Space Marine victory or if it's a Tyrannid's victory, before again it shows us that we're going to be getting the Eldari and the Chaos Space Marines in the next lot of issues. And it says issue 19 and 20, they'll be coming with our final Tyrannid model and our final Space Marine model, the Parasite of Mortrex, and the Chaplain on a bike. There was actually quite a lot of reading material, I felt, in issue 18. But like always, let me know your thoughts down below as we near the end of the first 2 units and we progress on to the next ones. I've already said I'm only going to be covering the first 20 magazines on my channel simply because I don't have enough time to paint and build all the models that are going to follow through. I've not finished painting any of these ones yet, so I will only be covering the first 20 issues. That's it for this week. Like always, I'll be back next week with issue number 19. Leave your comments down below on this issue, and I will see you then. Goodbye for now.